So your first 3 feature films have grossed 800 million?
I haven't checked. That sounds about right. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Why not?
Is this something 10 years ago you would have ever, you and Lota would have ever imagined?
I mean, not to sound like a jerk, but in a way, yes. Well, because I mean, it was always my dream to make movies. And it was always my dream to be a Hollywood director. But that was kind of like a secret because I'm from Sweden and it's like the other side of the world. Like I don't have any like family members who are in showbiz or anything like that. So it's not like you can say to friends and family, like, yeah, I'm going to be a Hollywood director because people are going to be like, yeah, sure. Like I'm going to be the king of Spain or whatever, But that was always the goal. And then it's been, a lot of times that goal has felt really far away and I've been very depressed and felt like, oh, this is never going to happen, of course. But that was always the goal. Like that was what I wanted to do with my life. So in a way, it's been, you can't say that it's been expected, but it's always been the goal. So it's always been like, yeah, that's what I really want. So it's more of like, the feeling is not a surprise. Well, it is a feeling of surprise that, wow, it actually happened. What I want, my dream actually came true, but the dream has always been there, if that makes sense.
And when you were in Sweden, you were posting short films and like animated films to your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And were you working another job or you were in an animation?
I actually haven't had a lot of jobs. I think video store was my first job, which was sort of under the table, not really official, but it was kind of cool. I loved it because I had access to movies. I could rent all these free movies, and sometimes you get screeners, so you could see movies before they came out on video and things like that. But I've never been much of a people person. So I mean, it's you have to talk to people a lot, that was the downside of it. But all the movies, that was the great part. And then I worked a little bit in like grocery stores and things like that, and I hated that even more because that's the downsides of working in a video store but without the movies. And then I was unemployed for quite a while. I was really depressed. I was still living with my mom in my 20s, and eventually I started making animation because I've always wanted to make movies. I was making movies with friends. But then as we started getting older, your friends are getting jobs and lives. And suddenly it's like, there's not as much time and willingness to make little dumb shorts. So that's when I started doing animation because it was something I could do all by myself. I didn't have to rely on other people's schedules or money or whatever. It was just like, I've always liked drawing. So I could do that on my computer all by myself. I'll just record the voices and didn't even need an expensive camera for it. And I was lucky in that this was in 2005, 2006, when YouTube was a new thing. So, I signed up to that, didn't really know what it was, but it's like, okay, I can upload videos here. And I uploaded a little animated short I made and got a really good response. Like people really seemed to like it. So I was like, well, this is great. So I made another one that was a little bit more ambitious than the first one. The first one was almost like a slideshow. I mean, I hesitate to call it animation because it's an actual slideshow. But then the second one I got more ambitious with. And I made this story that was very personal about sort of the thoughts in your head that put you down and like tell you that you're shit and basically an angel and the devil on your shoulder. And that one really took off online. Got all these views and really went viral. But it was in Swedish, so it didn't go outside of Scandinavia, but like Norway, Denmark, and people Finland. And that got me a lot of attention. I got like to go on TV and like, what's it like to have a viral hit? And it also led to me getting some jobs, like companies who are like, we want to make a little funny video about our product or whatever. And we loved your funny video. Can you do something for us? And I would do that. And often it's kind of funny because the shorts I made were very crude. Like they had a lot of bad language and like big penises and things like that. And of course, when companies want to do something, it's like, yeah, we want that, but not that. So you kind of have to do, something that's not as fun. But now I was actually getting some money, getting paid, which was great. And so I could move out and didn't have to live with my mom anymore. And this also led to me meeting my wife. I mean, we actually dated when we were 11.
Oh, wow.
She was into acting. I was already into making movies. And then when this short went viral, she saw it. And, we dated when we were 11, then had a 14-year break. And she saw this movie and was like, recognized my voice and contacted me to reconnect. And we did and got back together. And now, when we now were dating, she was an actress. I had a video camera. It's like, oh, we can make things together. And we tried getting money from the Swedish Film Institute, because in Sweden, you apply for grants from the Film Institute for your shorts or even for your features. That's basically how all movies are made there. But we didn't have any luck, because they weren't as interested in sort of the genre stuff that we wanted to do. And I think I've always had sort of a commercial bent for movies. Like, that's kind of my taste. American fun popcorn movies and things like that. And in Sweden, especially when you have that grant-based system and it's taxpayer money and they have to be real responsible what they do with that money, it often goes to films that are more sort of important and take up sort of issues with society and things like that. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's led to some great movies, but it didn't really work out for us. So we were turned down, but then we felt like, well, screw it. I mean, you're an actress. I have a camera. Let's just do something. We don't need money. We can do little shorts ourselves. So we did a little short called Come Closer. That was a horror short about like a phone that sees the future. I put that up on my YouTube channel that now had a few thousand followers from my animated work. And they were kind of surprised, a lot of the followers, because they expected sort of humorous animated things, and suddenly it's this terrifying little horror short. But people still seem to like it, even though they were surprised. And we really enjoyed doing it. And then we saw this, there was an online contest by these horror collective in the UK called Bloody Cuts. Like, make an under 3-minute horror film and you can win prizes and things. So we were like, well, that's what we're doing now. We just did Come Closer. Let's do something for this. And that's when we did Lights Out. Again, just me and Lotta in our apartment, trying to like figure out, okay, what can we do that's scary? And we were like, I think everyone's had that feeling of, in our house, it was a coat rack that you walk out in the middle of the night. It's like, ooh, it looks like someone's standing there. And you turn on lights, oh, there's nothing there. And that's sort of how it, playing around with the light gave us this idea of, okay, if there's something that actually is there every time you turn off the lights. So we did that, uploaded it to the contest, and then we found out that we didn't win the contest. But then a little while later, they also had secondary prizes. So I won Best Director, which was like, oh, that's awesome. But we didn't think that anything else would happen with that. We were like, oh, fun, let's make more movies. But then a few months after that, this was in March 2014, I saw on Reddit that someone had linked to our short. And it's like, oh, that's awesome. I showed Lotta, and then I go in to see the stats, and it was like 17,000 views. And it's like, oh, that's so much. That's awesome. And then just minutes later, it was like 70,000 views. And then it was like over 140,000 views. And it just kept going and going. It's like, what's happening? But I think, it was just 2.5 minute short, and there's no dialogue in it. I think that really helped it to spread. Partly because people don't have an attention span anymore. So it's like, if they see it, oh, it's only 2.5 minutes, I can watch that. And because there's no dialogue, it could spread everywhere. So we really sort of lucked into something that was really universal. It was just a few days after that, I actually said to Lotta that, I've heard of people getting representation in Hollywood from shorts, like from managers and agents and things like that. And like the day after I said that, I woke up to an email from a management firm here in Hollywood. I showed Lotta, I was like, I told you, it's like it's starting. And then it was just like open the floodgates, because we got emails from agents and managers and producers and studios and like sometimes actors and people as well, or makeup artists and all these things. It's like, what is this? And you know, these managers and agents that want to represent us, and you know, I had to get like an IMDb Pro account just to find out who these people are, and eventually I picked a manager who could then help us navigate this whole thing with getting an agent and who can we trust with producers and all of that. And this producer, Lawrence Gray, seemed really good, and he was really into it, you know, because a lot of them were just wanted to know who we were and what our plans were, or you know, and you don't know, like they didn't explicitly say we want to make this movie or we want to represent you. So, and I kind of need that. I don't know if it's because I'm Swedish and kind of introverted, like I'm not good with sort of interpreting subtle signs. Like so I went with like the producer was like, yes, I want to make this movie. We should make this movie. Boom. It's like, oh, all right, let's go. We went with Lawrence Gray, who and you know, it was kind of a weird situation because once this happened, it was about a year before the movie happened, which is actually pretty quick, but it feels strange in that situation to sort of wait for all of these things and not knowing if it's real, if it's actually going to happen or not. Because during this year, it was, you know, signing with a management firm and an agency and all of that, and then finding a writer, working with the writer to develop a script and making a deal for all of this with, you know, getting a lawyer and all of that. So during this year, Lotta and I, we didn't know if this was actually real or if it was all bullshit. So we were like, well, we can't stop going. So we kept making shorts, you know, around our house wherever we could come up with little new ideas. We made one in the attic, one in the basement, and just trying to come up with new stuff. And, you know, for each of these shorts, I would make these little behind the scenes videos. That turned out to be very appreciated by people who saw this, like other up and coming filmmakers. And it was something I did just because I loved, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see, you know, I've always loved seeing behind the scenes and making ofs and all these, because, you know, just to learn as much as possible and see what it's like on a film set and how do you create these things and all that. So we just kept doing that. And we even had this idea that we would make a feature, just her and I, if this didn't pan out. But then in March, something like that, of 2015, they basically saw, yeah, movie is happening. We need you here like next week or whatever. So Lotta basically had to quit her job because she was working in a group home. You know, I was a freelance animator, so I didn't have anything steady going. So we basically, you know, locked our apartment, got on a plane, and this was paid for by the studio because we were broke. Like when we first got a manager, you know, they were like, hey, can you get out here? Because we want you to meet all these people and go like on this, you know, tour of Hollywood. It's like, oh, hey, this is this guy and whatever. But we didn't have any money. So it's like, yeah, we can't do that. But then they paid for us to fly out here. And yeah, it was very strange. We had to find a place to live here, and everything is super expensive in LA. But we found on an Airbnb this half a garage in Burbank. It was sort of parted into two. So this mother and her daughter were our neighbors in this garage. And it was like, I mean, for us, it was like $2,500 or something a month. And for us, that is insane. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty nice garage. I mean, it wasn't bad or anything, but it was quite a shock to find out how expensive it was. And we still didn't have any money. And when we got over here, yeah, the studio paid for the flight over and everything. And they were gonna pay for living expenses, but not until the movie was greenlit. And it wasn't actually greenlit until quite late. So we had to, I mean, first of all, we borrowed from everyone we knew back home in Sweden. And then when that money ran out, it's like, what do we do now? So we had to borrow from the producer and the manager. And it was kind of dicey because it was like, well, if this doesn't happen, we're in deep shit because we're like all borrowed out when it comes to money. But then thankfully it did happen, the movie. But yeah, it was all pretty crazy because I'd never been on a movie set before. So the first time I actually stepped foot on a real movie set, it was as the director, which was pretty crazy. I mean, especially because, I mean, everyone there had more experience than me, and every assistant, your PA, and like, they've all worked on real movies, and I, you know, and part of me think, you know, I think they kind of thought I was more experienced than I was, and, you know, I wasn't going to correct them. It was like, yeah, sure, if you want me to make your movie, I will. But, you know, they would ask me if, oh, do you have a DP you usually work with, or an editor, or a storyboard artist? And it was just, no, I've done all these things myself because I've had to, you know.
Had you and Lotte previously been to Los Angeles before this? We
had been to, yes. It was actually the year before it went viral was the first time we were in LA, because I made a little animated documentary that it got into a film festival in San Jose. And so we got a little bit of money from the Swedish Film Institute to actually go to that film festival. And then it was like, well, let's go to LA as well. And the producer who we worked with to make that little animated documentary, he was like, well, let's go pitch the studios in Hollywood. And I was like, what are you even saying? Like, what do you mean pitch the studios in Hollywood? Like, how are we going to get in? What are we going to do? But he was like, no, my brother actually works at Fox in Sweden. So he can probably get us into Fox in LA. I was like, okay. And it was like, all right, let's pitch like a horror movie or something. So I actually wrote a little horror movie, and which was my first like script in English and everything. And we actually got to go there and pitch this thing. We had to sign all these disclaimers because we weren't represented or anything. And, you know, it was an interesting experience, but it was clearly just like, oh, he's a friend of him. Just, you know, just listen to it. You know, I mean, nothing came of it or anything, but it was still a cool experience. Like, yeah, I got to walk on the Fox lot, you know, and actually sit there and talk movies. So yeah, we'd been here before, but and even got into a studio, but that was it.
When you said viral previously, what year are we talking about? And then what was that number at that time? You know how viral has kind of changed? Like, some people think 1 million is no longer.
Yeah, well, it was in 2014, March. I mean, at the time it was like 4 million. I remember that. I mean, it landed on like 10 million or something, I think, or 11 million. But I mean, then it's kept going because other people have uploaded as well, and we didn't like be like, oh, they have to take that down, that's our movie or whatever. I mean, as long as they didn't change anything, it was just like, yeah, upload it. We just want people to see it, you know? So I saw an upload on Facebook. I don't trust Facebook's number though, because it was like, what was that? Like 70, 80, 90 million or something. And it was like, I don't know what Facebook does, but yeah, sure. But a lot of people seem to have seen it, yes.
And the link that was put on Reddit, was that Vimeo or YouTube?
That was Vimeo, actually. So it then went viral on Vimeo first, which seems, you know, kind of unique in a way, because it seems like it's mostly YouTube. But then since it was on YouTube as well, that exploded too. But it started on Vimeo.